Hi, welcome to the channel. This right here is the answer to making your digital photos look like film. Not a preset, not an emulation, real film. You have the beginning and the end of the roll that end up blank. Now when you scan these are simply black mats. There's nothing on them. When you overlay these to your digital photos, you can achieve very authentic film aesthetic, and I want to show you how to do it. For starters, I want to show you some previous edits that I've done and how I achieved them. Now right here, this is my mixing to tape video, and it's just a screenshot from the actual video, not even a real photograph. So I took this and I went into my collection of film overlays, Wonder Visions as I like to call them. And here I have several high quality film scans. So what I would do is go through here until I find one that piques my interest. This one looks good. This one looks very simple. Subtle is the key word here. I'm always trying to do very little. Just a touch goes a very long way. So I'm going to drag this into Photoshop. There we are. Now using the blend mode screen, I'm able to merge it with the photo. And as you see, when you filter through the different blend modes, you get different results. Here's lighten, screen, color dodge, linear dodge, add. This is an image of singer Sally Hahn. We were able to add some nice skin tone, and this is simply from the magic of film. One of the secrets to overlaying these film mats is using different opacities. You don't often want things to be at 100%. It's nice to bring in a color, a red or a blue, and drop it down to a very low percentage, and that's exactly what I did here. I have this rosy gradient at 12%. I have this black film mat at 40%. And finally, this yellow grain at 60. So let's apply everything back to the correct values. This is what we get. Nothing, everything. If I had the rose gradient too high, here's what it would look like. That's not good. But when we bring it down to around 12, to me, that seems to be the magic spot. And much of this process is really from intuition, grabbing different film mats that you feel like would work well together, playing with the blend modes, and then deciding from there. Here's a portrait I did of my dog Dinky. This is a digital photograph, and I wanted to give him more of a film vintage look. So the first thing I did was add this black subtle Wonder Vision. There's tight grain, creamy black, it's not intense, and there's a subtle leak on the top and bottom. Then I found this blue, and this blue, it's not just regular blue. This is film blue. So if you get into it, it has grain, not just one solid tone. There's complexities involved. So I like to add one of these, linear dodge, parentheses adds, again at a very, very low opacity. In this case, I chose 12. So let's add these two together. We're just getting a subtle color shift. Then to finish it off, I wanted to add some texture. So I went into the Wonder Vision bonus folder and I found this nice black and white high grain matte. Now using the blend mode soft light, because if you use hard light, it's going to be extremely grainy. Soft light is going to just give it a touch, a kiss of grain. And that's what we want. Now we add them all together and it looks like this. I think it's a great representation of my dog. And now what I'd like to do is show you the editing process from scratch and tell you what I'm thinking as I make my decisions. Here we have an image of the artist Chris Woods. If you zoom in, you'll notice it is not the sharpest photograph. And that's where Wonder Visions can really help you. You have an image that isn't the sharpest, well, it's okay, because once you add that grain, it's gonna mask some of that softness. It's also gonna retain some of the softness and make it look intentional, like a film photo. So now I'm going to go into the Wonder Vision subtle folder and find a matte that I think would gel well with this photograph. I want to find something that has a lot of black mass around it and only a subtle leak on the side. I don't want too much activity. I like this, but we'll keep going. This might work better because it has a little bit more visual intrigue as we have the light leaks not only in red but also in blue. So I'm going to drop this in here and I'm going to expand it. Okay, that's about the framing that I think is going to look good for this photograph. Now let's go through the blend modes. Lighten is not bad, but I feel like we've lost too much detail. It's a bit too crushed. Screen is not bad. Now I think linear dodge add looks best, but I think what we could do is knock it down a little bit. So let's bring it down to about 80. And we can move around this image if we want more of the light leak, if we want less. I think it looks nice with a little touch of it, okay? Again, if we zoom in and we take it off, here's what we notice. This image looks very cold, lifeless, and blurry. And then once we add one simple film matte, it now has some life in it. It looks like a real photo because it is. There's an overlay of real film on it. It's not fake, it's not manufactured. When you add grain or noise from Lightroom or Photoshop, it is inherently digital. It's not real. This is real grain. Okay, here we go again. We have a photo of the artist Wes Gura. He reached out to me and asked if I could help him edit his photo and make it look more vintage. So I'm gonna go into this subtle folder again, because that's where I like to start. I don't want to do too much, and I'll just pick it random. I like this one because everything is concentrated on the top right, and on this image we have a lot of negative space, so I feel like this would do well. Because I'm gonna drop it in, drag and drop. I'm gonna blow it up, and I'm gonna put it right around there. And now we're gonna filter through these modes and see what looks good. That's a little extreme. It doesn't look like they're blending well together. That looks phenomenal to me. And what's crazy about this is this almost looks like the morning sun coming through and hitting this tree, and that is completely accidental. It's simply just the Wonder Vision. Okay, I'm liking this, but I feel like we can make the image probably a little warmer. Now I'm gonna go into the graphic folder and see if I can find some color, but not just solid color. Color that has variation, asymmetrical color that's moving and has some kind of flow to it. This is a wild one. This is some chemical disaster. This is the one. If we bring this into our image at a very low opacity, I think that we can get some great film warmth. So I'm gonna bring it down to what I think we're gonna want, because I know we're not gonna want much of this. Going through the blend modes. I think soft light looks good without it and with. This is an image of the artist Linus. I'm gonna go to the Wonder Vision's colors, and I wanna find a green. And I think this mint is perfect. This is not just green, this is grain, texture. It's a flurry of imperfections. I'm gonna grab another one as well. I'm gonna pick two different colors that I want to mesh with each other. So now I'm gonna go to the graphics folder, and I wanna find something that just looks ridiculous, like this. There's a lot going on here. Let's drag this in. And now I dropped in this very Blade Runner-esque vintage Wonder Vision. I'm going to enlarge this to the canvas. Okay, now I'm going to experiment with the blend modes. I'm going to try overlay. And for the green, let's try soften. Now by adding those two layers with this specific blend mode, we get this image. And I think this looks really pretty. And you can only find something like this by experimenting and playing, grabbing things with your intuition, like that neon green color. Who knew that would look good? And if we take each one away, we lose it. And that's the telltale sign of good design. You remove something from it and the whole image crumbles. And if we come in here, we can see some really nice grain. Here the image is cold and soft. Here, and now we have some texture and some feeling. Here's another photo of Linus. This is the raw. I wanted to add some more texture to this. So start with this, which is just a very simple black matte, as well as this, which is another black matte with a little bit of white light gradients on the side. Now when we add all these together, now we get a very texturized, beautiful film looking photo. Here's nothing and here's everything. And again, this might be a little extreme, so we can always pull it back. Pull the opacity back just a touch to get something more natural looking. Now here's an image of my father that I took on who knows what, probably some weird vintage little digital camera. As you can see, it's pretty cooked. It's overexposed and it just has no vibe or feeling. It's a cold digital sterile photograph. But by introducing these mattes from real film scans, we can achieve a very authentic film look. The first one I added was from the subtle folder, and I used soft light. I like this because the blacks are very milky and they're crushed. Then we have this color, and we're going to be using the soft light. It's nice because we don't have pure red, we have some darks, we have some different peaks and valleys of the color, which is going to introduce a lot of variation to our picture. Again, that's film. And we have this red at a lower opacity, I'm thinking 25. And then we have this grain, this yellow, we're going to use the blend mode overlay. And that is going to be again at a lower opacity. And last but not least, we want a very highly texturized black and white film matte with a lot of scratches and chemical burns and various artifacts that are going to really help achieve this retro vintage look. And now when we add everything together, we get this. And this to me is a much more pleasing image than this lifeless, boring, nobody wants to look at this. But here, there's some kind of soul, there's some energy, there's a story in there. Why does he look so concerned? Why is the top of his head cut off? And again, all this editing we did by never touching the original raw image. We're not even editing it. We're not even touching it. It's just remaining exactly the same state. That's the wild part. And that's it. That's how I use the WonderVisions to create all the art for Wondertone, all the photos for Wondertone. Even when I shoot film, I'm often still putting WonderVisions on there because sometimes film doesn't look like film enough to me. So I like to double, triple it down. Let me actually show you an example of a film photo that I put WonderVisions on. Here's my friend Nick Coleman, very talented photographer. I took this image, I believe on medium format, and I added some WonderVisions and transformed it into this. I just kind of gave it a little extra juju, you know? 6 extra layers on this image. Here's a film photo of my father. I took this on Cinestill, but I wanted to add more film. So I found this WonderVision, a nice gradient from red to orange. And by adding this to the image, let's start at 0 opacity. You can see we warm it up. And you can actually go extreme with this and get almost like a red scale film. And then I added another just to give me that little edge on top. Maybe drop the red a little bit. Here's with nothing. When I got this picture back from the lab, it didn't hit. It didn't have colors that I was expecting. The day didn't really look like that. And that's the funny thing about film, is you can take a photo, and when you get the scans back, it's showing you its own interpretation of your memory. So I wasn't really happy with that. I wanted to add more color, and that's why I added these 2 guys, and to me, that seemed like an appropriate color for the photo. There's no limit to what you can do. There's no rules. You can put film on film. You can adjust things however you want. Just use your eye, use your taste, and be intuitive about it. Try things that you don't think should work. They just might work for you. So if you're interested in trying out these WonderVisions, they're now available on the site, and I would be happy to see what you make with them and hear your experience, because this is something I've been working on for a long time. Not a lot of photographers know about this, so enjoy this game. Thanks for watching.